Hello, welcome and a very good evening. Today we have an original Game Boy, well, not quite original, I think this is slightly later revision. I already opened it up to check some things. This is why the buttons here are missing. So it has a few problems. It doesn't turn on. The front glass is missing. The buttons, the silicone pads, probably need replacement. And I was wondering if it can be salvaged at all. It definitely needs a good clean here and there. It is the red edition, not quite sure what the deal is with that, but I think it came a little bit later and was probably a bit cost reduced. As usual with the DMG, it consists mainly of two PCBs. There are two smaller ones. I think this here is kind of like the audio output board, and down here is, I think, a power regulator. And this is the main board, which we'll see in a minute. And this is the display assembly, which comes with the speaker attached, soldered to it. The notoriously bad dot matrix display, which was still a selling point, nevertheless, back in the day. There's a lot of dirt on here, probably could use a clean. I don't think this can be salvaged, or I don't want it to be salvaged, because looking at the front you can already see that there are some issues. So the problem with this Game Boy, as with many, was that the batteries have leaked. The previous owner, forgot to take them out in time. But to be fair, this can happen all the time. Happened on my TV remote the other day. Batteries were working fine until they weren't. And when I opened it up, they just leaked. They were, of course, Duracell, which tend to do that. And I luckily didn't have big corrosion in there. So I cleaned it up a little bit and put in inner loops, which shouldn't leak at all and are rechargeable. And they are cheap enough that I rather take some rechargeable batteries in there than risk leakage. But this is not the worst. So while this might be salvageable, looking at the back, there is the ribbon cable or the flat cable. There's just so much alkaline damage on here. The ceramic capacitor is completely eaten away, so this would have to be replaced. Probably a 1200 picofarad one from the looks of it here, but to be honest, I won't be replacing this. I will put this to one side and just leave it at that. I'm gonna replace it with a modern IPS screen and have much better quality. So next up, I will take out the main board here, which incidentally looks super cheap. This must really be a cost-reduced version, because all the custom ICs are blobs. The CPU, the RAM, etc. Not sure what else there is, but the four main chips are just blobs. I'm probably gonna keep the spring here. There might be some corrosion on here, but it's generally looking good. The battery terminals, on the other hand, I think we need to take that out if we can. Let's take a tool here. Should be possible, although not quite sure how. Ah, I know how. There's a little tab in here that you have to push down. And then it should be easily removable, probably. Oh yes, and there it falls out. Same goes for the other ones. This one here is really crusty. This is, it seems, the main culprit. And I will wash this with dish soap gently and thoroughly, and take out the metal part here first so we don't get any rust on there. So the last one. If it goes out at all. Yes, it does. There we go. So those don't look too bad, but I ordered a full replacement. So they go off in the bin. And now we are more or less good to go to clean this whole heap of gunk. And there's so much crud. And the buttons have a lot of patina as well. So we'll put them in as well. Yeah, I'll be back when this is all clean and dry. So there we are. It's one day later and this cleaned up pretty nicely, I would say. You can of course see that this thing is like 30 years old at the least. There's a bit of rub off on the printing here. I tried to remove all the glue residue. There's still a little bit left, but I think we should be fine. So we'll start off with the metal shield. And I think this should go in just like this. There's always a little bit of trickery when using metal screws in plastics. So usually you turn a bit counterclockwise until you notice that the screw drops down, and then you turn forward, because then you're hitting exactly the thread that the screw previously cut into the plastic, basically, because most of the time those screws are basically self-tapping kind, and if you don't do that, then it might destroy the threading, and then you can basically just glue the screw in place, but that's a bit annoying. So something like that. I think the main board belongs in here like that. Yeah, this looks good. I think this should be like that, but there's also the power switch. Where I don't really know. Ah yes, interesting, I never noticed. When the power is on, the cartridge is locked into place and you can't really take it out. Not sure if the original Game Boy had that as well, or if this is like a new feature. Maybe, perhaps. Not quite sure. I think there in these black holes there should be also some screws, at least there are screw posts beneath. And I think those are the two screws that actually hold the main board in place. Because those two posts go from the back into the front shell. And these two holes the same, basically. This is looking quite good. We need the replacement springs and contacts. At least some of them. These would be the ones for the main board, but we're not going to use those. But we'll use these ones here. Freshly. Like so. can't actually place them in the wrong direction because they have these clips that only work one way. And you can also, of course, have a look at the springs and the minus signs. They have to always align. Already looking good, I would say. And that's already the back shell sorted out. Looks pretty sturdy. And now we are off to the front shell. I might want to use something to put here, not to get any dirt on there. So we have the display assembly, put that to one side, the new flex cable, and the main board, basically, with some kind of Pango IC, not sure what that is. Then this is probably an FPGA or CPLD, CY, probably Cypress or something, maybe. Not sure what the Pango is, I would have to look that up. So if anyone is curious, I'm gonna zoom in. Here are the details of the Pango chip. And here are the details of the possibly Cypress, maybe something else, CPLD or FPGA or whatever. The whole board isn't utterly expensive, but also not super cheap. So yeah, doesn't seem to be a super rare FPGA or anything. Now to take out the new silicone rubber thingies. All fresh and very responsive compared to the squishy old ones. Here is a comparison. You can actually see how worn out the graphite contacts on there are. And the material here itself is still okay, still a bit clicky, but of course it wears out as well. And it's dirty as heck. So that's that. The display will have to be put in as well. The question is where and how. Okay, I see. So this has to go like so. There's still a film on there, which I will remove in time. And most importantly, there's this zero insertion force thing, where we have to put in the flex PCB. And this time it's really a PCB, because there are like a ton of teeny tiny. So this looks good, I think. Someone put some Captain tape on top of those. This will be like so. Do I dare to pull this off? Yes, I do. We go for broke. Yep, this is looking good. More or less. Yep, we're gonna put this in. You see if the speaker will fit. Yes, it does. But I will plug it in a little bit later. First, we're gonna use more screws to secure this in place. Like so. So there's no soldering involved here, which is quite nice. With the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Color, you will have to solder. And that might not be the easiest thing to do for inexperienced people, because the parts are relatively small, the wires. It's not super hard, but maybe not the first thing you want to try and solder if you've never done that in your life. So this here definitely looks like a much easier job. Haven't done this before either, but I think this is looking pretty good. There's, I think, 2, 4, 6 screws in the lower part, due to the fact that these are the places where the buttons are, so it definitely has to be held in place by much more screws than the rest of the Game Boy. I might want to put some Captain tape over here as well for strain relief. It's looks like they make the flex PCB quite short, but maybe it's okay the way it is. And there should be one more screw. Yes, there's one more short Phillips screw. There we are. Buttons are nice and clicky. Before I get any dust on there, we will also take, whoops, sorry, the new glass here. Which is made specifically for this Game Boy variant, the original Game Boy. There we go. Looking good. There we have it. Of course, I put some fingerprints on there, but that's okay, we can wipe that off. And I think that's the front shell, except for the speaker. Which I put in now. And now we can try to put in the last pieces. I think this goes... Which way does it go? I should have taken note, shouldn't I? Oh well. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. So I've checked with the old screen, and it looks like it goes in an S loop to feed back into this. So this is face down, because when you close it, that should be away more or less. And then this should be face up, this connector, right? Because it's an S shape. At least it probably is. So that's what I'm trying to do. I guess, if I can manage to do that. A 0 force insertion socket would have been here great. But that we don't have. Do it like this. No, I dislike this. I wonder if there are tools to insert this. Yes, almost, but at an angle. Okay, we're in. Now it closes in an S fashion. Like an S, I mean. Like the letter S. Question is, will it close all the way? I think so. I will switch over to the tri-wing bit. To actually close this thing. And there should be a bunch of these, like 6 or so. Yeah, seems to be good. There was already one screw in there. Same trick as before. Counterclockwise until you think you can feel or hear. Here there was even a click. Till you can hear the click or feel the screw dropping. There it was, and then going clockwise again. Then we need to find a couple of batteries. Probably gonna pick some inner loops, borrow them from one of my mini arcades or something. Not sure if this thing plays well with the 1.2 volt batteries, but if not, I can find some alkaline. But in these old devices, I dislike using alkaline batteries due to their leakage potential, let's say. So it is together. Now for some batteries. So in my Galaga mini arcade I found a bunch of Vatas, industrial pro quality, but honestly I don't trust them, so I will use them in the Game Boy for now, but will not continue using them in either of these devices. I might just get a couple of more inner loops or the IKEA brand, which is basically just relabeled Panasonic inner loops. The ladder ones, I think they're called. So make sure to check those out. They are really good, really good. And yeah, we get nothing. Dang it. This is looking correct. This is all correct. Ah, it's not making good contact. Okay, I see. Okay, yeah, there are some problems with the contact there. I might need to replace those battery contacts on the main board anyway. But the display seems to work. Gonna put in tennis. Well, so far so good. Okay, I suck at tennis, but let's quickly see if it works. And it does look pretty good. Haha, point for me. Yay! Neat. I actually managed to score a point here. Yeah, so it seems to work. It is actually looking pretty beautifully. The only thing seems to be that the batteries are not making great contact in here. I put this down to probably the battery terminals on the main board, I would guess, because those still might have a little bit of corrosion somewhere. So I might replace them off camera with these ones, but I won't bore you with the details of that. So this was the IPS mod for the original Game Boy. As you can see, the mainboard still worked. We can reuse the shell, and we've got a pretty nifty, nice Game Boy now, which is really hefty, but still much smaller than the Mega Drive. No, not the Mega Drive, the Game Gear, obviously. So there you have it. I think it's wonderful. There's even like a color screen up here, and I think you can choose the palette somehow, but I didn't check on that. All in all, I think this was worth the money, because now I've got a brand spanking new Game Boy. So that's it for today. As always, thanks for watching. It would greatly help if you subscribe if you haven't done so, share on social media, and hit the like button, stuff like that. If you want, you can also support me via the links down in the video description. But other than that, I hope to see you in the next video, and that's it for today. Bye!